So I think our nation is broken from a lot of political perspectives and also from working perspective, benefit perspective. So I think that making a political party that is the unity party, and the only reason why I say unity is because it's going to take a leader and the people to fix the nation as a whole. So I believe that my party would bring in new forms of hydrogen, different things like that. So we would come out and basically make hydrogen work for the nation. So we don't need to rely on gas, we don't need to rely on oil, but we switch over and make a transition over to hydrogen fuels. And the hydrogen fuels, the byproduct from that being hydrocarbons, not only will this bring in good jobs, I think that we have unemployment. We got a lot of unemployment. Anybody who's sick, I don't think that they should go through the rigor of constantly needing to keep going to a job centre repeatedly when we should trust our doctors and nurses that if they write somebody off, then it should be accepted as they are professionally trained to know whether somebody is fit enough for work or not. And I believe that once a doctor has made their decision, they've done a lot of years training for it, then we as a government should respect what the doctor has said. I think that anyone who is eligible for work, I think a better approach rather than forcing people into jobs. I think that is a ridiculous. I think this just causes a problem. And I've seen some of the other parties, I don't know, mandates for what they're going to do with this and how they're going to achieve it. And it is get a job within this many days. If you don't get a job, your second job, we won't pay you no more. I think that is not going to help our nation at all. I think that puts more pressure on individuals and therefore puts them into a job where they won't be happy in and then begin perhaps not to be in a very good fit or state of mind to continue that job. So I think that a better one is perhaps that we can get you into a college that perhaps sorts and supports hydrogen fuel or going for different things like that. Like I said, that the byproduct of hydrogen generators and systems and is going to create hydrocarbons. And if we can collect the hydrocarbons, we can put these into underground farms. We can start to build space farms. I believe that moving towards space to support our currency, to bring in all different types of elements from different worlds would be far more beneficial to sustain Britain's long-term ability to stay ahead in the world affairs, share resources and different things like that. So we need farmers to support us in this because their growing expertise can be helped, especially with jobs, plus with hydrogen fuel making the transition. This then with the individuals that are struggling to find a job that fits them. I think this would help. Plus, if we get education systems, especially with college, universities, where you can go and learn new skills and be a part of this with us, this journey, with people, with government, to walk in this new endeavour, this new frontier, together collectively. Whether that is you are unemployed and you just don't know what you're seeking for. It also brings in better paid jobs, which I think is helpful for the economy as a whole. Especially if we're able to go and grab different elements from the moon, different elements from here. Convert the moon. It's a big endeavour, but still, convert the moon, or at least low Earth orbit with space farms, underground farms. We need farmers to help, and anybody else that wants who is unemployed, who can work, who is not sick. To get extra money in your pocket, this is the way forwards. And this, I believe, is going to be the only way forward, is to integrate all of these things together. So that's where we'll need farmers' input. We're going to need college input. We're going to need, anyone who may be on benefits or in a job where they feel that it just isn't giving them what they're after. I think that robotics play a major role in this to free up some people who are doing a dead-end job that a robot can do. I think we should let robots do this and take care of this. Why do I feel so passionately about that? Because we're going to need an incredible workforce to pull off any of these transitions from where we go from oil, where we go from gas, over into hydrogen. We're going to need the workforce for this. So that's where it plays a part in all of this, to be honest. So, and then once we can convert the hydrocarbons back into oxygen. Let's say the carbon can be extracted from there by the plants. Well, we're already abundant in hydrogen anyway. So, this perpetual motion will help us. It also brings in new possibilities to go over to other moons and start resourcing and mining, let's say, the resources there to bring in the water, the moisture, look for other life. And I think our nation should play a major role in that and have a working space program that we should all feel proud of. We got a big thing where it's causing a lot of conflict in society is immigration. And I don't think that it would be unfair for, yes, come here. However, you've got to work. Just the same way our ancestors put into the same pot that we did. Sure, if you want to come here, that's fine, but you've got to work. You must work. Why? It's not unethical to say it, because our ancestors followed a legacy of doing this, and it worked for so many years. It helped support the most lowest individuals or the poorest individuals in society with low income. It helped to support all individuals from top to bottom. It really, really has worked. But we've got to start making it work for us. I believe another thing is housing and different things like that. I think we've got to start looking at what's toxic for society. Rather than worrying about other things, I think we need to look at the more important things that cause more damage to health, such as asbestos in buildings and different things like that. We also got a lot of areas that we're going to need to use the police force to get into. We have many areas in the United Kingdom that are not lived in. They're being taken over by the most ruthless of criminals. And I think that this needs to be tackled head on. And we have people that come over from war-torn countries. And again, to do our bit on the world stage, we must meet our obligations to take in, I believe the correct term is refugees. We've got to be able to do our part in that. But it's also got to work with the people who are indigenous to the United Kingdom. If not, we're going to cause conflicts. And conflicts are never good. We want everybody to work together and to live together in harmony, not division or to be scared. So where we have some of these places that are not too great, we need a police force to go in and tackle the crime that's in those areas. And then I believe to move individuals across this to build these up with us. We need a new workforce to go in and do any work that needs to be done inside these properties that are run down. There are many houses that are just unoccupied because the area has fallen out over the years. And I think that with a good police force there and presence just to remove anyone that is committing any criminal activities there, well, there's plenty of prisons for you. And then we can start to shift some of the migrants and natives have better opportunities to houses and housing. Housing conditions with the council, the way it's working, that all needs reforming. All of the councils are going to need a rehaul and reform. And whatever works, we keep. What doesn't, we lose. We let go of. Why? Because I think that what's the point in hanging on to something? So, especially in the environmental health sector, I think there's a lot needs to be done there. An awful lot. And I think that housing associations alike and any buildings that are empty and that have no tenants inside them, you will pay a tax for that. Landowners, you will pay a tax. If you can't pay the tax on an empty building, then how can I be assured, and anybody else in the public be assured, that you're going to have enough money to do decent repairs? So again, with this and renting accounts, different things like that, I think that AI should take over this. You pay the AI system. The AI system then pays your landlord. So there can be no qualms of who's paid the rent and who hasn't. This takes care of accounting as well, and I think which will be a bit of a load off your shoulders. I think that we should embrace our solicitors a little bit more, that houses are turned to wreck and ruin. And if this is with a housing association or a private landlord, if the houses are left to turn wreck and ruin, then I think that you should be sued. But in two terms. One should be the tenant, and two should be the system that is in place to try and protect these people that are living inside these buildings. Public health should be number one, especially in things like asbestos. It's okay that it's illegal to buy it. But yet, if it is sitting inside a house somewhere, It needs to be removed and it needs to be taken care of. Again, this brings in more jobs, more work. I think we need a revamp of all of our sewer waste systems, and not only the ones that go towards rivers or anything else like that. I think the ones inside houses need looking at, the pipes that take the waste products away from the house. Again, it's not great for farmland, most certainly is not. It's not good for waterways, and it most certainly isn't good for public health, all the way across the board. So I think all of these things need to be looked at, and there needs to be more action taken in these areas in order to bring better lives for people. I think that having an independent body set up, which would be great if it worked through the council, or at least give them a bit more better training in this antisocial behaviour, it should be a key role. Again, minimising the risks of depression and anxiety, and just not a nice experience for people living in that, for both parties. I think more needs to be done on this. Benefits, keep changing the benefit system repeatedly for people who are sick. Does nothing but add more stress to their plate. And they're already going through something, and I think that this needs to be a thing of the past. It's not humane to do that. And for any government that tries to sneak in the back door, any powers to come in to anybody's property, whether they're on benefits or not, because you suspect that they could be taking money, but won't look at the facts that are being in this whole system. I think that politicians should be held accountable. Most certainly. They should all be held accountable. And where we walk together and we say unity, we've got to look at some of the things in-house as well as out-house. Rather than looking at people on benefits and keep changing the system for them, I think it's time that politics took on a whole new reform. And it needs a reform built in. The unnecessary waste of money to be put on food, breakfast, different things like that when we have people starving in our nation. I think this needs to be eliminated. And that money could be saved up to go on to feed people. I think that job centres as well are paid, the staff. The individuals across the United Kingdom are unaware of how much the staff inside these job centres and these fraud prevention agencies are actually on. Quite a lot of money. I think that there needs to be a unity in society, that where we walk into places like doctors, hospitals, where we walk into job centres and you read the signs and you see security, and we see the signs that zero tolerance on abuse. I think that that needs to be extended towards the public as well as the people that are working. And inside job centres, I think that where we could convert this over to AI technology, where necessary, can do a fine job. Not saying that people there don't, and not everybody, but there's a large growing number of individuals that are abused when they go into a job centre. And that is on both sides of the spectrum, and it needs to be fairly and equally dealt with. And I think that no more of that. Anybody in society that comes out with an idea, we need to be doing more stuff with our rainwater that falls off our buildings. Rather than it going into a gutter, can it go into a system somewhere where it's stored and it is flushed down the toilet at a later date? We need to look at our rivers and the way the water runs from all of our cities and towns and villages that fast tracks into all rivers. I think that there needs to be some level of containment before it all makes its way out into the river. So rather than 90% of the water that makes it from our city falling into the rivers, we need to get that number down in order to stop the rivers from bursting their banks further down the river, so that when the storm has passed, we can then release what's been contained. And I think this could be good to give this back to the public, communities, where they can flush this down the toilet at a later date. This is how we could begin to recycle water. Well, get a bit more thrifty with it. I think another thing that needs to be brought in to United Kingdom is any landlords that have paid for solar panels. And I say paid, and I'm going to use that very loosely. You charge a rent. If you charge a rent and it is paying for the installation of solar panels, you will be capped at how long you can keep taking that money for. What's more, you will receive all of that energy that's on that grid, and you can then sell it back to the power company. I would be removing the power companies the way that it's structured. I would change this, make it more available if National Grid wants to. But I think it's really important that hydrogen fuel systems is government owned. And I think that this should remain in-house, that there will be no profits, no CEOs on any of these companies, whether it be a space program, no CEOs. New type of fuel systems and generators for generating electricity, no CEO. You will still pay the bill, but the bill will go into the tax pot, going on for further generations and future generations of people plus governments alike, that there will be money in the pot. And hopefully with this new way, the taxes will begin to come down, because all of the necessities, so if we start collecting water, converting salt water into fresh drinkable water, this will also be government owned. If this is government owned, no CEO. The CEO becomes the tax pot. And when we begin to transition from what was to what is, I think that this is very healthy for governments and the people and its prosperity of continuation of bringing benefits to everybody that resides on this part of the continent. So it works a little bit like this. Rather than having a CEO that makes a large amount of money off of energy bills, it will then be owned by government. Government will be in control of hydrogen due to its lethal nature, let's say. It needs to be dealt with safely, very safely indeed. We will be part hydrogen, part solar, and part wind turbine. It'll be a hybrid system. Sometimes a little bit of gas, sometimes some other methods may be put in there. When we own this as a part of government, it belongs to the whole people across the nation. When you pay your bill and you pay for your energy, it goes into maintaining these systems. Not only will it maintain the systems, but any profit that is generated off of that will go into the tax pot. And hopefully we can begin to reduce the tax and switch it over. When making water in a more purer format than we see it today, if we are successful with this and we all work together, like I said, the people with the government, to work together to reach this, hopefully when we start to give out more water that is more purer, no CEO, it goes into the tax pot. Any ideas that come about of any individual, whether you are disabled, whether you are already in a job, it doesn't matter where you come from, where you're at. If you've got a good mind with a good idea, there will be funds in the pot for you to explore this and then give this into people when you are left, when you leave the planet after this, yes? Wherever we all go on to. That anything that you invent is left for the people, and it goes on to support people and populations for millennia. And I think that's where we need to be as a nation. But we can only do this if we all come together and we all work together. I think that where we would like to protect ourselves, yes, in a nation, we should. But no pointless war or difficult situations that we need to get into. I think our main objective should be looking more towards the stars and seeing what's out in this solar system of ours. Especially in our back garden, what we've got, what we can get. There's plenty of hydrogen at Jupiter. Not just go there with robotics, but also bring things back that we can touch, feel, teach our children, have a great science about, dissect, investigate, see what we can do with the minerals when we bring them back to Earth. Can we utilize the sun if we find some metals, take it close to the sun and use the heat of the sun to A, cook food, B, if we had a farm on the moon, could we use robotics to grow that, working with the farmers, working with the inventors and the people in the colleges, different things like that, and the workforce to build this and get this successful? The robots harvest, chop it all up, put it into a vat and send it close to the sun with some water that we mined from Europa. Just to say, won't be salted because we'd have removed the salts anyway. Can we do that and move it closer to the sun and cook all that food and bring it back to the earth and land it and all have a feast to celebrate? A day of, we did it. We give it a good go. Can we feast on that? Knowing that it is possible to ensure that food for us and future generations is ensured, regardless of what the climate does here on Earth. If there's flooding, well, we've got this. If there is fire, well, we've got this. Any natural event that nature has to throw at us, we're okay because we've got a backup. Ensuring that we don't go hungry. Also working with farmers to build underground farms, solar farms, moon farms, whatever it may be, space farms. Can we grow tropical foods in pressurized to mimic the location of where they naturally grow? Can we grow oranges here? Can we grow coconuts? Can we grow all foods around the world? Can we teach other nations how to grow this type of a system? And not just ensure that our bellies are full, but ensure that all of their bellies are full too. And perhaps, just perhaps, and maybe, that if they embark on this adventure with us, that their techniques they share with us, and our techniques that we learn, we share with them. Why? Because it ensures them, their people, it ensures us and our people with the knowledge that we can exchange with one another. Because different parts of the world have different things to learn. And for the ones that don't want to embark on this with us, can we still ensure that we feed their bellies too? And their children's children? Why? Because that's what we're about. Stepping up for ourselves, stepping up for the future, and also stepping up for every nation on the planet. Big endeavour, but it's got to start somewhere. But working with farmers is going to be the only way that we achieve this. I mean, it's big, it's ambitious, I'll give you that. But I think we could do it. I think we can do it. I think it brings great jobs. Then GDP naturally should start to rise. There's money in the pot. Taxes naturally will begin to go down. Feel proud to pay your bills. Happy to. Because you know that it's going to ensure future generations. And like I said, this is my endeavour on Unity Party. But can it be our endeavour? I say mine in the beginning, but I like to say ours towards the end. So we did it. And it all starts with a little seed that we bury and we grow the tree together. And hopefully it seeds and goes on to seed. But that's it. That's where I'm going to cover that.